Income tax, learning intentions. Know key terms, gross income, cut-off, tax credits, rates, USC, PRSI. Work out income tax using bands and credits and do reverse, find income from tax, find USC, PRSI and net pay. Success criteria I can. Split income at the cut-off, apply 20% or 40%, then subtract credits. Use the USC and PRSI bands to total deductions. Calculate net pay and check by reversing a step. Income tax. Wage and salary earners pay income tax on all their incomes at one of two rates. These rates are called the standard rate and the hired rate. In 2019, the standard rate was 20% and the higher rate was 40%. However, these rates can change from year to year. At the beginning of each year, each employed person is given a tax credit and a standard rate cut-off point. If the standard rate cut-off point is €30,000, this means that the person pays income at the standard rate, say 20%, on the first €30,000 of income. Any income above €30,000 is taxed at the higher rate, say 40%. When this income tax has been calculated, it is called gross tax. The person's tax credit is then deducted from the gross tax to give the tax payable. So let's say there's a salary of €42,000. The standard rate cut-off point is €30,000, so it would be this line here. So the first €30,000 is taxed at 20%, and the remainder, so 42,000 minus 30,000, leaves us with 12,000. So the remainder, 12,000, is taxed at 40% in this particular example. So tax payable is equal to gross tax minus tax credits. Example 1. A woman's income for the year is €45,000. She has a standard rate cut-off point of €28,000 and a tax credit of €4,000. If the standard rate of income tax is 20% and the higher rate is 40%, how much income tax does she pay for the year? So gross tax is 20% of 28,000 and 40% of the remainder. And if in maths, of means multiply. So 45,000 minus 28,000 leaves us with 17,000. So that's the remaining amount, or the remainder. So you get 20% multiplied by 28,000, and we're going to add that to 40% multiplied by 17,000. So that's going to be 5,600 plus 6,800. So the gross tax is €12,400. Tax payable is equal to gross tax minus tax credit. You need to learn this off. Gross tax is €12,400. We work that out up here. We're going to subtract the tax credit, which is 4,000 given in the question. So this tax payable is 8,400. Therefore, she pays €8,400 income tax for the year. Example 2. A man pays €4,500 income tax for the year, and he has a tax credit of 2,400. If he pays tax at the standard rate of 20% on all his income, calculate his gross income for the year. Tax payable is equal to gross tax minus tax credit. Again, you need to learn this off. The tax payable is €4,500. We got that from the question, highlighted in yellow. And the tax credit is €2,400. We got that from the question, highlighted in blue. So it's going to be €4,500 is equal to the gross tax minus €2,400. Which means gross tax will be equal to €4,500 plus €2,400. So gross tax is equal to €6,900. Gross tax is 20% of the gross income. Therefore, €6,900 is equal to 20%. We want to find 1%. So to make 20% become 1%, we divide by 20. So to make anything become 1, we divide by itself. So dividing both sides by 20, 6,900 divided by 20 is €345. So that's 1%. So now we want to work out 100%. So 1 times 100 gives us 100. So we multiply both sides by 100, and €345 times 100 is €34,500. So 100% is €34,500. Therefore, his gross income for the year is €34,500. Example 3. A man paid €13,150 in income tax for the year. He had a tax credit of €3,500 and his standard rate cutoff point was €32,000. The standard rate of income tax was 20% and the higher rate was 40%. Calculate the man's gross income for the year. Gross tax is equal to tax payable plus tax credit. Again, you need to learn this off by heart. The tax payable is €13,150, highlighted in yellow. We got that from the question. And the tax credit is €3,500, highlighted there in blue. Again, we got that from the question. Gross tax, therefore, is equal to €16,650, because when we add them, we get €16,650. So that's our gross tax. Tax on the first 32,000 is equal to 20% of 32,000. And that gives us 6,400. So 20% multiplied by 32,000 is 6,400. Tax above 32,000 is going to be 16,650, which is the gross tax that we worked out up here, highlighted in green, minus the 6,400, leaves us with 10,250. So the €10,250 that we just worked out is equal to 40% of the salary above €32,000. So €10,250 is equal to 40%. So that's from the previous slide. We want to work out 1%. So how does 40 become 1? Well, how does anything become 1? We divide by itself. So we divide by 40. And what we do to the right, we do to the left. And 10,250 divided by 40 is €256.25. So that's equal to 1%. So €256.25 is equal to 1%. So now we want 100%. So how does 1 become 100? We multiply by 100, and what we do to the right, we do to the left. So multiplying by 100, we get €25,625. So €25,625 is equal to 100%. So that 100% is 100% of the salary above €32,000. And that €32,000 was given to us in the question as the standard rate cutoff point. So the gross income is €32,000, which is the standard rate cutoff point, plus €25,625. And that gives €57,625. Therefore, his gross income for the year is €57,625. Deductions. Other deductions besides income tax also apply to salary and wages. The two main deductions are Universal Social Charge USC and Pay Related Social Insurance PRSI. Universal Social Charge USC. The rates for this deduction are shown in the chart. This is valid 2019, so they may have changed. Note, USC contribution is charged on if your income is more than €13,000. And note the 1 cent is disregarded in all calculations. So income thresholds per year on the left, then we have the rate, and then we have per week. So for example, up to 12,012 cents, the rate is 0.5%, up to €231 per week. The next band is from 12,012 euro to 19,874 euro. The rate is 2%. So per week, that's from 231 euro and 1 cent to 382 euro and 19 cent. And then from 19,874.01, but we can forget about the 01, to 70,044 euro. The rate is 4.5%, so above 382.2 to 1,347, again, that's per week. And above 70,044 euro, it's 8%, so that's above 1,347 euro per week. 2. Pay-related social insurance, PRSI. Note, it is important to remember that both of these deductions are payable on gross salary once the income criteria apply. 4% of gross salary if the salary is above 352 euro per week. Example 4. Sam earns 38,600 euro per year. Calculate the total USC and PRSI deductions on her salary per year. So the USC is going to be 0.5% of 12,012 euro, so multiplied by, giving us 60 euro and 6 cents. In our rough work then, we're going to do 19,874 minus the 12,012 euro. Leaves us with 7,862. So again, you can forget the 1 cent. So then we get 2% of 7,862. So we multiply. So that gives us 157 and 24 cents. So we subtract again. So 38,600, which is what Sam earns, minus the 19,874 that's coming from the table, leaves us with 18,726. So now we get 4.5% of 18,726. So we multiply. So again, that's coming from the table, the 4.5%, which gives us 842 and 67.67. Adding these three totals, we get 1,059.97. So that's the total USC. Next is the PRSI. So again, go back to what Sam earns, 38,600 euro, divide by 52, because there's 52 weeks in a year. Gives us 742 and 31 cents. So this is the weekly gross income. And 742.31 is greater than 352. So that was from our notes. So 4% of gross salary if salary is above 352 euro per week. So therefore, she must pay 4% PRSI on the gross salary, which is 38,600. And 4% of 38,600, so we multiply, is 1,544 euros. So this is the total PRSI. So the total deductions is going to be the total USC, 1,059.97, plus the total PRSI, 1,544, which gives 2,603 euro 0.97 per year in deductions of USC and PRSI.